Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the sources you provide, extract the most compelling nuggets of knowledge, and deliver the focused insight you need to be truly well-informed.
Hello.
Today, we are swapping the boardroom for the boulevard, the screen for the skyline.
Oh, yes.
We're lacing up our shoes and hitting the pathways of Calgary, Alberta.
It might seem like a really simple topic, just walking. But the sources you brought for this deep dive, they reveal that in Calgary, a simple walk is, well, it's anything but simple.
No, it's not.
It's an incredibly immersive experience.
Absolutely. The material we're digging through today, it's drawn heavily from these guides focused on Calgary's vast network of trails, and they showcase over 35 new routes.
35.
Yeah, a dizzying mix of, urban jaunts and deep nature strolls. But, as always, our mission isn't just to provide navigation. We want to move beyond the simple where and really explore the why and the how of Calgary's unique pedestrian environment. We want to uncover the profound psychological, historical, and even geological benefits of, well, the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other.
And Calgary is so uniquely suited for this kind of deep dive.
Why is that?
Because the city allows for such diverse exploration.
Sure.
I mean, the core appeal of walking, as our sources really emphasize, is its sheer simplicity.
Right, you don't need much.
You don't need specialized equipment, you don't need a license, just, practical footwear. But within minutes, you can shift from navigating dense downtown architecture and public art to these serene ancient river valleys, soaring escarpments, and meticulously planned gardens.
It really is the ultimate antidote to the complexity of modern life, isn't it? It gives you the fresh air, the time to think, the freedom to explore at your own pace. And there is this real sense of achievement that comes from covering ground solely under your own power. Changing your routine, clearing your head, and quite literally putting your immediate problems into perspective by walking away from them for a while.
That's precisely why the concept of the walk is so enduringly powerful. It is by far the cheapest and most accessible form of self-care available to almost everyone in this city.
A tool for recalibration.
Exactly, an emotional and cognitive recalibration.
So let's jump right into that recalibration, because the sources frame walking in these really compelling, almost chemical terms.
They do.
We're talking about walking as a legal high. The material references Charles Montgomery's influential work, Happy City, where he makes this very clear statement about the effects of movement on mental health. He says walking works like a drug, and it starts working even after a few steps.
Yeah, and that statement isn't hyperbole. It is deeply rooted in biology. The immediate physical act of walking, even before you get into a rhythm, it produces this powerful physiological response.
Okay, so what's happening in the body?
As soon as you start moving, your heart rate increases. And that increased cardiac output immediately pushes more oxygenated blood to your brain.
So we're essentially giving our brain a quick, clean dose of fuel.
Exactly, and that fresh fuel acts as a cognitive boost. I mean, research has consistently shown that physical activity, even just moderate walking, can significantly reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression.
A natural mood regulator.
It's a natural built-in mood regulator. But what's truly fascinating, and what the sources really delve into, is that the benefit isn't just chemical. It's also deeply behavioral, and it's tied directly to how you carry yourself.
This is where the concept of gait comes in, right? The very manner in which we move influences our mental state.
That's the crux of it. Researchers have explored this deeply in a field sometimes called gait theory, which strongly suggests that the physical posture of walking creates a feedback loop with your emotional state.
A feedback loop.
Yes. The sources cite research, including studies published in the Journal of Behavior Therapy and Experimental Psychiatry, showing this critical connection between movement and mood.
So if you are walking with your head down, shoulders slumped, dragging your feet, that classic posture of someone who is stressed or depressed, you are actually reinforcing that mental state. Is that it?
Precisely. If you adopt that posture, a slight arm swing, head forward, reduced pace, the research indicates you are significantly more inclined to focus on negative memories and perceived threats in your environment.
Because you're physically embodying it.
You're physically embodying and therefore reinforcing the negative thought cycles that characterize a low mood.
It's almost a physical self-fulfilling prophecy. So how do we break that cycle using our walk?
Well, the practical application for you, for the listener and the walker, is what the source material calls the actor mentality.
The actor mentality.
Yes. Think of your body as a character. You should project to the world how you want to feel, even if you don't feel that way inside at first.
So walk like a happy person, even if you're faking it for the first few minutes.
Exactly that. Walk with conviction. Stand taller, look forward, increase the amplitude of your arm swing, and speed up your pace just slightly. The research suggests that by forcing yourself into a more confident, expansive physical state, you interrupt that negative feedback loop.
And you actually start to feel better.
You genuinely start to feel happier and more focused on positive or neutral things. It's the physical action feeding the emotional state. It's very similar to the well-known idea of power poses that immediately boost self-confidence before a stressful event.
That's incredible. I mean, a cheap, easy, immediate mental hack available every time you step out the door. But unfortunately, despite these huge, simple benefits, the source material points out a major, worrying societal shift away from walking, particularly with children.
Oh, the decline in walking for basic transportation is stark. It really deserves some serious reflection.
What are the numbers?
Currently, in North America, only about 12% of children walk or cycle for transportation, commuting to school or a friend's house.
Only 12%.
Just 12. Now consider that dramatic shift. Just one generation ago, the figures were inverted. The majority of kids walked, often in groups, unsupervised, developing essential social and navigational skills along the way.
And when we engineer walking out of our kids' lives, the loss isn't just physical fitness, is it?
No, not at all. The deeper loss, the source emphasizes, is the loss of independence and freedom, something vital for cognitive and emotional development. When children walk on their own, they gain time away from the constant supervision of adults.
Freedom from the hovering adults.
That's what the source calls it. Freedom from the controlling world of hovering adults. The sense of self-reliance, the need to navigate the world on your own terms, even for a short trip to school, is just crucial for fostering resilience and confidence.
So it sounds like the walk is not just a form of exercise, but it's a pathway to autonomy.
Precisely. And this is why the simple act of choosing to walk, whether you are 8 or 80, continues to deliver this sense of freedom and control. The fact that it is simple, legal, and immediately effective is why it truly earns that description of a legal high.
It makes sense.
And we see this wisdom reflected historically, too. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche understood this connection deeply. He famously concluded, "All truly great thoughts are conceived by walking." He needed that movement to fuel his greatest ideas.
So if we accept that walking is fundamental to mental health, then the physical environment that encourages it and supports it becomes absolutely critical.
Yes.
And this is where Calgary really starts to stand out, because the city has made infrastructure a massive civic priority.
That investment is foundational to the walking experience here. It really is. Calgary boasts an astounding network. Over 800 kilometers of paved pathways.
Wait, 800?
800 kilometers. And nearly 300 kilometers of on-street bikeways.
That's a huge number.
It is. When you talk about scale, this is highlighted as the most extensive urban pathway and bikeway system in all of North America. The long-term civic vision was always for self-propelled users, walkers, runners, cyclists, to be able to traverse the city's parks, natural areas, and urban centers through a seamless, interconnected system.
800 kilometers is nearly the distance from Calgary to Vancouver. That is a massive undertaking. And that dream is still actively expanding, right? Particularly with the enormous Rotary Mattamy Calgary Greenway project.
The Greenway project really encapsulates the city's ambition. When it's completed, the initial target was 2016, though large segments are already operational. It'll constitute a 138-kilometer network of parks and pathways designed to completely encircle the city.
A complete circle.
A complete circle. And this isn't just one long trail. It links 55 different communities, creating this massive perimeter loop.
What's the ultimate impact of a ring system like that?
Well, it creates redundancies and options, and it connects major natural assets. So it links the Bow and Elbow Rivers, Fish Creek Provincial Park, Nose Creek, West Nose Creek, and the Glenmore Reservoir perimeter.
All the big ones.
All the big ones. And crucially, when it is fully finished and linked, the Rotary Mattamy Greenway will become the single longest continuous urban pathway and park system in the entire world.
In the world! That's stunning.
That level of investment just underscores the city's commitment to non-vehicular transport and recreation.
It's truly amazing. And to put this incredible network into historical perspective, where did the city start building this system? Was it always this ambitious?
The seeds of this massive network were sown back in the 1970s. The very first paved pathway the city constructed was in Confederation Park.
Okay.
And that initial success, it spurred the development of the crucial arterial pathways that run alongside the Bow and Elbow Rivers. Those river paths now form the foundational spine of the entire citywide system.
Okay, now let's shift to the practicalities for the learner tuning in today. If you are planning a route using this network, the sources provide some excellent baseline metrics for estimating time and distance. What should we keep in mind?
Yeah. We need to set expectations. For someone who walks regularly, the source material suggests maintaining an average pace of about 5 kilometers per hour.
5K an hour.
That's a great standard for estimating how long a route will take. However, a major feature of Calgary's geography is the presence of river valleys and these dramatic escarpments, so elevation is a huge variable.
Right. How do we factor in those sudden lung-burning climbs, like walking out of the Bow River Valley up towards a neighborhood like Briar Hill?
We can use a simple rule of thumb. Generally speaking, for every 100 meters you gain in elevation, you should budget an extra 10 minutes for your estimated walk time.
An extra 10 minutes.
Right. And the steep climbs in Calgary, when you're ascending from the river valley floor to the top of the escarpments, they typically involve a vertical gain of between 35 and 60 meters.
Okay, so if you're tackling the climb up, say, to Houghton Heights, which might be a 40-meter vertical rise, you need to budget just 4 extra minutes onto your estimate.
Exactly.
So a 30-minute flat walk becomes a 34-minute effort. It makes the effort quantifiable.
It does. It helps manage expectations and energy output, which makes the whole effort less surprising and, frankly, more enjoyable.
And for those of us tracking steps for fitness goals, like hitting that popular 10,000 steps a day challenge, the math is also pretty straightforward.
It is. With an average adult step length of about 80 centimeters, which can vary, of course, you'll walk about 1,312 steps for every kilometer.
Okay.
Therefore, if you plan a continuous walk route that is 7.5 kilometers or more, you will easily hit that 10,000 step goal.
So any decent inner-city loop will get you there.
Oh yeah, almost any loop, especially one connecting 2 river pathways and a residential bluff, is a perfect way to clear your head and satisfy your fitness target.
We absolutely must discuss one of the most visible and often photographed architectural statements of this commitment to pedestrian life, the Peace Bridge.
The Peace Bridge is a fantastic landmark. It's not just a crossing. It's a piece of kinetic art, designed by the internationally renowned Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava.
Calatrava, yeah.
It's a tubular pedestrian bridge and is dedicated purely to non-vehicular transport and recreation.
What makes its design so functional for Calgary's specific needs?
It was designed to accommodate the city's growing population of walkers and cyclists. Specifically, it was built to handle over 6,000 users per day,
6,000.
managing both modes of transport in harmony. Its tubular heel-like structure provides shelter from the elements while still remaining visually open. And importantly, it functions as a powerful symbol for the city.
In what way?
It's well lit for 24-hour year-round use, and the distinctive use of bright red and white colors in the design is an intentional, unmistakable nod to the Canadian flag and the city's identity.
It's a perfect illustration of how infrastructure can be both profoundly practical and emotionally inspiring.
Absolutely. It connects the dense Beltline and downtown core to the Sunnyside community across the Bow River. It's a key node in that 800-kilometer network, ensuring that walking remains the most delightful and often quickest way to move between these key urban districts.
Moving from the grand scale of infrastructure, let's drill down into specific inner-city neighborhoods, because this is where a walk reveals true layers of history and unique community character. We're going to start high up on the bluff with Briar Hill and Houghton Heights, famously dubbed the Mount Royal of the North.
Right. The history here is deeply rooted in Calgary's early land booms. The land was originally a massive farm, Hounsfield Lodge Farm, owned by Thomas E. Riley and Georgina Jane Hounsfield.
And how big was it?
It was enormous. It extended from Sunnyside all the way west to Parkdale, bound by the Bow River and 16th Avenue North.
And the subdivision of this land coincides precisely with a massive, exhilarating population boom in Calgary right around 1910, driven by the railway and the oil industry.
That's when the city truly exploded. Calgary's population grew by 40,000 residents in that decade alone,
40,000.
which made this prime view-rich land incredibly sought after. In June 1910, the land was marketed aggressively in the press as Hounsfield Heights, all-view lots, an ideal location for an ideal home.
And the pricing reflected that ambition. This wasn't land for the average homesteader.
Not at all. At $800 to $1,000 per 50-foot lot, only the established and moneyed segment of the population could afford to settle there.
So very exclusive.
Very. The stated goal, right from the initial marketing, was to create the North Side's direct equivalent of the prestigious South Side community of Mount Royal.
And did they succeed?
Well, a recession temporarily stalled development in 1913, but if you walk through Houghton Heights today, you see that the original vision was definitely realized a century later. It truly became the mini Mount Royal of the North.
And when you're walking up there, the geography itself absolutely dictates this upscale character. The bluff, which was once known more humbly as Grasshopper Hill, it provides some of the widest, most sweeping views of the downtown skyline.
It really does.
What should the walker look for in the architecture when they're up there?
The walk is a tour of architectural evolution. You'll see those modest mid-century bungalows being transformed into modern palaces,
Yeah,
as the source describes them.
right.
You should keep an eye out for unique details that speak to the geology. Look for the boulder terraced yards, which are a signature element of the bluff's landscaping. There is one specific, distinct yellow house mentioned in the sources that features this dramatic boulder field that seems to flow right across the front yard. It integrates the raw stone landscape into the manicured space.
That kind of intentional, unique design brings us to the impressive structure nearby, the Alberta Children's Hospital.
The hospital is a brilliant and highly walkable example of intentional community design based on psychological principles. Before construction, children who would be using the hospital were extensively consulted for their input on how they wanted the hospital to look.
So they asked the kids.
Yes, the kids. And the result of that consultation is this multicolored, almost Lego-like structure designed to be inherently non-threatening.
That's fascinating.
And crucially, it features a multitude of windows bringing maximum natural light into all rooms. This colorful, light-filled environment, combined with patient rooms that include beds for family members, is specifically intended to help reduce stress, promote healing, and create a more comfortable environment for pediatric patients.
So it's emphasizing nature and light.
Exactly. Key elements of a positive walking experience just transposed onto a medical building.
From the heights of Briar Hill, let's head east across the river to Bridgeland, a neighborhood defined by its rich immigrant history and, critically, its biophilic design.
Bridgeland, originally known as Riverside, began as a settlement for German and Russian immigrants in the 1880s, which is how it earned the early name Germantown. Over time, due to subsequent waves of Italian and Ukrainian populations, it earned the affectionate moniker Little Italy, a community identity that still deeply resonates today.
And the walk there is really interesting.
It's fascinating because it's a vibrant mix of meticulously preserved early 1900s homes nestled right alongside sleek, modern abodes.
That concept of the biophilic community really ties Bridgeland back to our theme of walking in nature. For the learner, what exactly does biophilic design mean?
Biophilia essentially means love of life or living systems. So a biophilic community, or a green street, means that nature is not an afterthought. It's not cordoned off into designated parks.
As integrated.
It's seamlessly integrated into the built environment, the streets, the sidewalks, the boulevards. This legacy in Calgary is thanks largely to two early park superintendents, William Pierce and William Reeder.
Tell us about their vision. What did they achieve against the challenges of the early prairie city?
Pierce was a true visionary. He championed the idea of a city of trees and was instrumental in developing the massive boulevard plantings we see today, particularly along Memorial Drive. Reeder was his successor, and his efforts were Herculean.
Herculean how?
In the early 1900s, Calgary faced harsh winters, a persistent lack of water, and those incredibly dehydrating Chinook winds. But despite these challenges, Reeder was responsible for planting hundreds of trees, nurturing them into the dense, established urban forest canopy we enjoy today.
Their hard work resulted in the shade and beauty that make walking in these older communities so pleasant. And there's a real measurable health impact from that canopy.
There's quantifiable evidence. Studies have consistently shown that living or working near these green streets, these biophilic communities, leads to profound positive health outcomes.
Like what?
Residents are often documented as being healthier, more productive in their work, and even more generous to their neighbors. The canopy of green is not just aesthetic. It's a core public health asset that enhances the entire pedestrian experience.
That brings us to the density required to sustain that community character. We move south now to the Beltline, specifically Connaught. This is an area where the density has reached a point that car ownership, frankly, becomes optional.
That is the essential trade-off and the inherent beauty of density done well. When you have high residential density mixed with commercial services, virtually all daily necessities, groceries, health services, transit connections, are just a short walk away.
It creates a different kind of life.
It does. The sources highlight areas like Bankview, which, with its steep streets and mixed housing stock of apartments, condos, and large escarpment homes, is often described as Calgary's mini San Francisco. It creates a vibrant, accessible, and varied community.
And if you want to soak up that specific urban energy, the density, the people, the hustle, you head to 17th Avenue.
A Red Mile.
The Red Mile, exactly.
It's the heart of the social scene. It's the perfect, energetic detour for dedicated people watching, window shopping, and just enjoying the urban atmosphere, particularly on warm evenings in the spring and summer. That's when Calgarians really emerge from winter hibernation, and the atmosphere on that street is electric.
And the local businesses aren't just shops, they are cultural markers of that density. They rely on that pedestrian traffic to survive.
Absolutely. The density supports independent businesses that simply couldn't thrive in a sprawling suburban environment. We're talking about institutions like Kalamata Grocery, which has been run by Gus and George Kukos for decades.
Oh, yeah.
Famous for their selection of 16 types of fresh olives, multiple varieties of imported feta, and high-quality sesame-based halva.
Or the famous cafe culture.
Yes. Cafe Bino and Analog Cafe, these are busy, dynamic spots, often filled with natural light, perfect for pausing on your walk to watch the street life unfold year-round. The core economic message here is inescapable. If you, the walker, desire these unique local independent shops, bakeries, or cafes along your route,
You have to support the density.
you must support well-done urban density increases, because that high volume of foot traffic is what sustains them financially.
We've explored the dense urban core and its complex history. Now, let's transition completely and plunge into Calgary's expansive natural parks. These are true, accessible wilderness retreats existing right within the city limits. We have to start with the colossal prairie island that anchors the north side, Nose Hill Park.
Nose Hill is magnificent, and its history is measured in geological epochs, not just decades. It's not simply a hill. It's a vast prairie park situated on the remnant of a 60-million-year-old plateau.
60 million. It's hard to even wrap your head around that number.
Think about that time frame. That plateau was formed around the time the dinosaurs disappeared.
And what shaped the plateau into the hill we see today?
Well, the Bow and Elbow rivers, along with the subsequent action of massive glaciers that carved through the valleys, they incised this ancient landscape by dramatic 175 meters.
Oh.
So the hill you're standing on is a stunning piece of geological history. And when you look around, other nearby hills like Broadcast Hill near Canada Olympic Park and the hills south of Pritis are also remnants of this same ancient plateau.
So when you're catching your breath on a challenging incline up Nose Hill, you are literally standing on a 60-million-year-old formation. That certainly puts the effort into humbling perspective. What physical secrets does this ancient landscape hold for the observant walker?
Well, you should look closely for the remnants of a more recent but still fascinating history, what the source calls the itchy buffalo and erratics.
Okay, what's an erratic?
When the glaciers retreated, they deposited these massive boulders known as glacial erratics, which originated hundreds of kilometers away and don't match the local rock composition.
And the buffalo use these erratics.
Yes, up until about a century ago, large herds of buffalo roamed Nose Hill. In the spring, when they were shedding their winter coats, they would rub against these standing stones to molt and remove irritating hairs.
Like a scratching post.
Exactly. And if you look closely today, you can still see the evidence. Deep, smooth depressions and shiny spots on the stones where generations of massive animals use them as their personal scratching posts. It's a powerful, tangible connection to the pre-settlement past.
What about the living ecology? How diverse is this prairie island?
The biodiversity is surprisingly significant given its urban setting. Over 200 flowering plants color the landscape throughout the summer and into the fall, starting with the delicate, purple-headed prairie crocus that bravely emerges in early April.
And wildlife.
Also abundant. We're talking 91 documented bird species, groups of white-tailed deer, and you might even spot a waddling porcupine if you're out around dusk.
I find the scattered groves of trembling aspen particularly striking when walking through the coulees. They aren't just patches of trees, they're essentially living time capsules that embody that ancient stability.
They are truly remarkable from a biological standpoint. Every single aspen within a grove is genetically identical. They are clones. The original tree propagates by sending out root suckers, which then emerge as new trees connected by a single, vast root system. Some trembling aspen colonies in Alberta have been documented to be over 6,000 years old.
So that's essentially a single organism covering acres, existing for millennia.
That's right. And because they are genetically identical, they share an internal clock. They all change color at the exact same time in the fall, turning this vibrant, uniform yellow against the deep reds and oranges of the surrounding prairie grasses.
A stunning display.
It really is a stunning seasonal display that highlights the interconnectedness of that ecosystem.
While we're talking about flora, let's quickly contrast the hardy grassland areas with the more sheltered coulees.
The prairies that cover most of Nose Hill are dominated by hardy grasses that are designed for survival. They are wind-pollinated, which explains why they lack colorful flowers. They have no need to attract insects.
So they're built for resilience.
So resilient that they actually benefit from grazing by large mammals like deer or, historically, buffalo, as grazing removes the dead thatch and allows sunlight to reach the new growth underneath.
And the coulees offer relief from that persistent prairie wind.
Exactly. The trembling aspen groves, found largely in those sheltered ravines, offer crucial protection from the frequent high winds. This creates different microclimates and habitats for a wider variety of plants and animals, like nesting owls and larger deer populations seeking shelter.
Now let's move to the ultimate urban wilderness getaway in the south, Fish Creek Provincial Park. The sheer scale is staggering.
Fish Creek is a monumental piece of urban planning and preservation. It stretches 19 kilometers from east to west and encompasses over 13 square kilometers of mixed forest, open fields, and river pathways.
That's huge.
It's the perfect place where someone feeling electronically inebriated from constant screen time can truly put down the device and hit the restore button on their mind. You have miles of mixed shale and paved paths surrounded by a dense mix of poplar, aspen, and towering white spruce forest.
And the human history there goes back much further than the city of Calgary itself.
Oh, much further. The evidence of human activity in the Fish Creek area reaches back up to 4,000 years. Archaeological digs within the park have uncovered buffalo jumps and kill sites utilized by First Nations hunters between 2500 BCE and 1700 CE.
What's the oldest thing they've found?
The oldest identifiable artifact unearthed in the area is a broken atlatl head. That's a tool used for throwing spears, which is dated to approximately 2500 BCE.
Incredible. That deep history then transitioned into the ranching era with the arrival of European settlers.
It did. The first European settlers in the Fish Creek Valley were John and Adelaide Glenn, who established their farm in 1873. But their tenure was brief. They sold the farm in 1879, and it became Indian Supply Farm number 24.
What was that?
This was an instructional farm intended to assist the Blackfoot people in adapting to a new agricultural way of life following the signing of Treaty Number 7 in 1877.
A tough period of transition for the First Nations groups.
It was. Later, the farm was acquired by William Roper Hull, an expert in the growing cattle industry, known for his innovative irrigation efficiencies. And eventually, Hull sold the Bow Valley Ranch to one of the biggest names in Alberta history, Patrick Burns.
Patrick Burns, who effectively created a meat-packing empire across Western Canada.
That's right. In 1902, Burns incorporated the ranch into his massive industrial empire, which spanned meatpacking and dairy products. It remained in the Burns family until the provincial government purchased the land in 1972, preserving it and opening it as a park in 1975.
So every time you walk there, you are walking through the footsteps of ancient hunters, settlers, and the giants of the early Alberta cattle industry.
You really are.
And for those seeking a tangible connection to that history and a civilized end to a long walk, we have to mention Annie's Cafe, which is situated right in the historic center of the park.
That cozy cafe is housed in the foreman's original residence and is named after Annie Bannister, the foreman's wife. The mere existence of a high-quality cafe in a provincial park is rare and wonderful, and it provides a perfect reward and a gathering spot after hitting that internal restore button in the wilderness.
Let's shift our focus to the water life. When walking near the Bow River, particularly near the Douglasdale Escarpment Trails, you might spot some birds that look surprisingly large, almost out of place.
We are talking about the American white pelican. These are truly massive birds, easily one of the world's largest, and they arrive in Alberta in late April. Spotting them is unmistakable. They have distinctive, long, flattened bills and bright yellow-orange feeding pouches, and they have an enormous wingspan.
They seem like creatures you'd expect closer to the coast, not inland on the prairie rivers.
It can be startling to see them flying or congregating on sandbars. They're intensely focused on food consumption, primarily warm water fish, and they have an aggressively high daily food goal.
How much do they need?
They need to consume 2 kilograms of food every single day to sustain that massive body size.
I hear they have quite the interesting hunting strategy, sometimes involving collaboration.
Yes, Pelicans are often spotted feeding in disciplined tandem with another bird, the double-crested cormorant. The cormorants, being diving birds, plunge down and flush fish to the surface, creating chaos. The pelicans, with their wide-scooping pouches, then reap the rewards.
A real team effort.
Well, sometimes. The sources also note that this cooperative relationship can quickly turn adversarial, with the pelicans occasionally aggressively mobbing and robbing the cormorants of their catch.
From the large, majestic pelican, we shift our attention to the smaller but arguably more destructive workaholic of the waterway, the beaver, particularly active in Fish Creek.
The beaver is driven by an incredible, almost compulsive instinct. They are intensely attracted to the sound of running water, and they feel a primal urge to cover that sound source to meet it.
That's why they build the dams.
That's exactly why they continuously build dams, often causing extensive flooding that forces temporary closures of popular walking trails.
So their dam building isn't just for habitation, it's a form of auditory compulsion.
Absolutely. The sources provide a fascinating anecdote. If a small speaker is played near a beaver, broadcasting the sound of running water, a building frenzy will erupt until the sound is successfully muted by mud and sticks.
That's amazing.
They use the trees they fell not just for shelter, but also as the primary structural material for their dams, and they consume the bark, leaves, and twigs for food along the way.
Do they ever give up and move on?
They stop building in the short term, typically during the deepest winter months, but their drive is continuous. In the long term, they must eventually move on when they have exhausted their local food supply. At that point, the dam will slowly dismantle, and they'll start fresh, finding a new patch of running water to silence somewhere else.
Before we leave this deep dive into nature, we must highlight a truly unique geological oddity found in Beaumont Park, specifically in the area known as Waterfall Valley, the tufa formation.
Tufa is a fascinating feature because it involves simple chemistry meeting biology. It is a type of limestone composed of mineral deposits that occur when spring water, which has traveled underground and dissolved calcium carbonate from the sediment, reaches the surface.
And what happens when it surfaces?
When the water emerges into the open air and light, it begins to precipitate that dissolved mineral over algae-covered rocks. The algae act as a sticky substrate, and over time, the mineral deposit builds up, creating these porous, often crunchy calcium formations that look like natural sculptures.
And this creates a truly spectacular and unusual phenomenon in the winter months, doesn't it?
It does, and it's a must-see for the dedicated winter walker. On the coldest days, when the falls themselves are frozen solid, the slightly warmer spring water continues to flow behind the ice shell.
And what does that do?
The interaction of the frigid air and the warmer flow creates this constant, gentle mist, resulting in what the sources describe as being immersed in a natural glacial steam bath.
A glacial steam bath.
It's a surreal, almost tropical sensory experience in the very heart of an Albertan winter landscape.
Walking is about connecting with nature, but it's also fundamentally about engaging with the human environment, the art, the food, and the culture. Let's talk about the specific cultural engagement available on foot, particularly downtown.
Modern urban planners are increasingly recognizing that to successfully encourage walking, they must integrate the unexpected into the everyday built environment. They want to disrupt the mundane.
Right.
This is why public art is so important. It acts as a constant surprise, a distraction, and a point of reflection along your route, moving beyond just office towers and traffic. Calgary's downtown core offers a world-class public art walk.
Let's pull out some of the specific pieces that the source material highlights.
We have several stunning examples. Think of Wonderland, the massive 3.5-meter-high wireframe sculpture of a giant girl's head. It sits on the plaza right in front of the Bow Building.
Impossible to miss.
It's impossible to miss and provides an immediate, almost jarring visual disruption to this steel and glass architecture surrounding it.
And there is a much more intimate, reflective piece that relates to local identity.
That would be Alberta's Dream, a bronze self-portrait by Spanish sculptor Jaume Plensa. It depicts a man embracing a live tree, but the figure's body is intricately decorated with the names of specific towns and places across Alberta.
So it's a literal representation of identity.
Identity being shaped by geography and place, yes.
And one particularly powerful piece honors Canada's civic history and the struggle for equality.
That is the Women Are Persons installation. It honors the famous five pioneering Alberta women: Emily Murphy, Henrietta Mere Edwards, Nellie McClung, Louise McKinney, and Irene Parlby. They successfully fought the constitutional battle to have Canadian women legally recognized as persons in 1929 after the Supreme Court had initially rejected their case. Public art is thus far more than mere decoration. It's an expression of history, identity, and community spirit that you can only truly appreciate by stopping and walking slowly past it.
Speaking of walking slowly and observing, this whole experience brings us back to a classical concept, the flaneur.
The flaneur, yes. It's a 19th century French concept describing the leisurely urban explorer. This person intentionally wanders, observing, contemplating, and absorbing the urban landscape without a fixed destination.
The walk is the destination.
The walk itself becomes a destination. It's an advocacy for walking purely to experience the city, to absorb the surprises around every unexplored corner.
And as we discussed earlier with the Beltline, that flaneur lifestyle, that pleasant contemplative wandering, is only enabled by the urban density that supports the independent shops the walker wants to pause at.
Precisely. If you are strolling through a dense inner-city community, like Inglewood or Bridgeland, your walk is enhanced by the presence of local treasures. Shops like Lena's Italian Market and Cafe, famous for their homemade pastas, authentic pizzas, and high-quality prepared foods, offer a specific cultural marker.
Or a place like Vendôme.
Or the cozy atmosphere of Vendôme Cafe in Sunnyside, tucked into an old brick building with scrumptious, made-from-scratch food. These businesses rely entirely on the flow of people, and the walkability of the city supports the local independent economy.
Finally, as we wrap up this deep dive, we need to talk about the legendary Calgary weather event that can change the walking experience literally overnight, often for the better, the Chinook wind.
The Chinook is a fascinating natural phenomenon that defines the Calgary climate in winter. It's a warm, dry wind that originates from the west coast, hits the Rocky Mountains, and then descends rapidly onto the city. As it descends, it compresses and warms dramatically.
The snow eater.
Calgarians call it the snow eater, or snowplow, because it can cause colossal temperature swings. You often hear Calgarians proudly brag about the temperature rising from negative 20 degrees C to 20 degrees C in a single day.
The relief that brings in the middle of a cold winter must be incredible, but those rapid changes present real practical challenges for the walker, particularly on the trails.
They certainly do. From a practical safety standpoint, the thaw caused by the warm Chinook melts the snow and ice, but when the wind eventually retreats and the deep freeze returns, that meltwater turns shaded pathways
Into ice rinks.
into sheets of treacherous black ice, especially those in the deep ravines of Fish Creek or the hidden corners of Strathcona. Walkers must be prepared and are strongly advised to bring traction devices or cleats for safety, particularly when venturing into the city's natural parks after a Chinook.
And environmentally, what challenge does that sudden warmth pose to the urban forests and the gardens?
The Chinook poses a significant challenge to gardening. Those sudden warm January temperatures can trick local flora into thinking spring has arrived far too early, causing plants, shrubs, and trees to begin budding. When the inevitable deep freeze returns, those early buds are highly vulnerable to injury or death.
Despite that risk, Calgary gardeners are described as hardy, and the gardens are still beautiful from June into September. It's the price you pay for those trademark blue skies and warm winter winds.
It is.
So today we've taken a deep, winding, and exhilarating walk through Calgary.
We really have. We started with the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other, connecting it to the latest psychological research on movement, posture, and mood, noting that walking like a happy person genuinely makes you feel happier. We then journeyed across the city's vast infrastructure, the over 800 kilometers of pathways, and the world's longest urban park, the 138-kilometer Rotary-Mattamy Greenway project.
We looked at the history embedded in the urban fabric, from the ambitious, high-cost plan for Briar Hill to become the Mount Royal of the North, to the biophilic design and thriving urban forest of Bridgeland, thanks to the sheer determination of early park superintendents.
And then we plunged into the deep, massive wilderness retreats within the city Fish Creek, which holds artifacts up to 4,000 years old, and the dramatic, ancient 60-million-year-old plateaus of Nose Hill.
You now possess the knowledge not just to navigate a map, but to truly understand the deep and complex connections between Calgary's history, be it ranching, oil, or waves of immigration, its impressive civic infrastructure, and the very chemistry of your own brain. Every walk is now infused with context.
It really is.
And here is a final provocative thought for you to chew on next time you step out onto a trail, perhaps on Nose Hill. We learned that Calgary's largest urban natural areas, like the massive prairie island of Nose Hill, are physical remnants of a 60-million-year-old plateau carved by ice and water over eons. Consider this. Do we enjoy and seek out these wilderness areas so intensely because, even as a highly developed modern city built on entrepreneurship and risk-taking, Calgary has physically and historically preserved a massive, ancient, deep piece of its pre-human self right in the heart of the modern core? The trails aren't just paths to walk on, they are truly paths walking through time.